Hello students, this is a video lecture in which we are going to cover the poem The Retreat by Henry Vaughan. This is your fourth poem by another poet who belongs to the same age as John Donne. You have already done a poem by John Donne before, and that is why there is this word over here which we have used, and it is metaphysical. Metaphysical means it is that style of poetry in which some typical characteristics are used by poets, and the most important characteristic is the use of a conceit, and we are going to come to that in a short while. But first of all, let us talk about the poem and the poet. And here the poet, as you can see, is Henry Vaughan, and he was born in 1622 and died in 1695. And as I said before, he is a poet of the metaphysical style of poetry. And if you talk of this poem, then in this poem the poet is talking of the purity of a child's soul. Even though from the title you are not able to guess what the theme of the poem is, but the title absolutely makes sense, and it absolutely suits the theme of the poem, because in the beginning only the poet tries to tell the reader that he is he is attracted to, or he is connected to the idea of a child's soul having a connection with God, and the reason is the purity of the soul. The purity of the soul which only a child can have, and the way the with time the child grows and becomes an adult, and he is involved with the life on earth, the soul also gains impurities, and it is definitely not the same as it was before. And here he also talks of the heavenly innocence of a child, that it is just at that point of time in one person's life when that he's a child, an infant, a child, a toddler, and slowly, that soul within him reveals itself, and that soul is so heavenly because there is still a connection with God. And we also come to know that the poet has a strong belief in the immortality of the soul. And we have done the meaning of this word immortality before also in the poem Death Be Not Proud, and of course in the poem On His Blindness by John Milton, where the poets talk about the soul going back to their original home, and that place is the home of God. And this life on earth, it is just a temporary phase. So definitely the soul is immortal. The soul does not die, and only the body dies, and when the body dies, the soul goes back to the maker. And the poet says here in this poem also, the poet says that the stay on earth is very short and temporary, and it is only heaven which is eternal. This word eternal we have done in our first poem, Let Me Not to the Marriage of True Minds, where eternal meant forever, it meant permanent. And what is permanent? Only heaven, God, that is permanent. Only soul is permanent. Otherwise, life on earth is just temporary and very, very short. Now we come to that characteristic of a metaphysical poet, and that is the metaphysical conceit. And you can see this word here, conceit. Conceit is a continuous metaphor. Definitely you know what a metaphor is. We have been doing it again and again. It is a form of comparison, but here this sort of comparison, it continues throughout the poem, and it is called a conceit. And in this poem, I have written this in capitals: journey and travel. This is the conceit that the poet is using. And then comes the meaning of the title. What is the title? The title of this poem is The Retreat. And what is the meaning of the word retreat? Retreat usually means withdrawing, but here this is not in the negative sense, not at all. The poet is actually saying that this is a kind of a backward motion. It is a backward motion. You are almost going in reverse, where going in reverse is actually going forward. He wants to go back in life to his childhood. That is going reverse. But by going back to his childhood, he is actually moving forward towards heaven, because only by becoming a child, only by having a soul as pure as a child, the poet will be able to be close to God, and the poet will be able to move forward. So, going back and moving forward, this is going to happen together. You will means backward motion means becoming a child again. This is the backward motion, but forward motion means going into the arms of God. So these are the themes that you will see when we will do the poem in detail. But I have just referred to these themes over here in short, and then we come to the structure of the poem. This is not a sonnet as before, this is a proper poem, and it has rhyming couplets. Rhyming couplets means pairs, two lines that rhyme with each other. And when you come to the poem, and this is where the poem begins, the retreat, you see over here the first line, this word over here, it is I. When I and infancy, so they rhyme with each other, so it would be a place, race, be, ought, thought, see. So in this way it rhymes in pairs. Okay, so a c and so on. This is the rhyme scheme of our poem. I hope the structure of the poem is clear to you. And in our next video lecture, as we will continue this poem, we will do this poem line by line and analyze and discuss all the themes that you have seen in the first slide. Thank you very much.